Hello, students. Thank you for joining us. So my name is Robert Cummings, as you know, and today we will be doing a webinar on ISO immigration, the ISO immigration process. With me is my guest and your ISO advisor, Maria Brennan. So she prepared a brief presentation for you to get you started. As you know, the immigration process will start next week, where you can begin uploading your documents. So this is sort of to prepare you for that. And if you have any questions along the way, feel free to send them to me in the Google chat. Yeah.
Thank you, Robert. Good morning and welcome to the webinar. We look forward to seeing you all in January. Okay, so let us proceed again with some helpful hints on how to get your immigration document, your certificate of eligibility that you will use to apply for your student visa. And so choosing a visa would be the first one. So there are two types of student visas. There's the F1, which is the simpler of the two visas, and there's also the J. An F1 student should apply for an I-20, should apply to the ISO, to our office. You're going to do it online. And once you upload all the documents, we will issue the I-20, which will take to the US Embassy or a consulate in your home country, or the country you're living in. A third country would not be suitable. Anyone, of course, I need to say, anyone who's a permanent resident or anything would not, of course, be applying for such a document. They would be like US citizens and would not come through our office. Canadians also, they're actually visa exempt. While they enter the US on a student immigration document, they get the status, the visa status upon entry, but they're exempt from actually going to the embassy. I don't know if we have any Canadians, do we, Robert?
Yes.
We do. So it's important to know that. All the regulations do apply to Canadians. However, that little piece, applying for the actual visa at the embassy, they're exempt from that. I just wanted to make that clear. And it's important not to enter the US as a tourist. We would have to ask you to leave and re-enter on the student fee, on the I-20, and get the student status at the port of entry. Tourists are ineligible to be students. The F1 visa, as I said, is the simpler of the two. And the funding, it can be any source of funding. It can be personal funds, family funds, relative, company funds, government funds, from any source whatsoever to apply for the I-20. There are no restrictions. And I don't know if we have any dependents, but if you have spouses, a wife, or husband, or children, they could apply for the F2 visa. We would require a marriage certificate in order to apply for the dependent I-20 form. It's important to note that the F2 visa holders, the dependents, are eligible to actually study part-time, even in a degree program. That's rather new. They were limited to sort of incidental classes like maybe ESL or something like that. But today they can actually study part-time towards a degree, but never full-time. And of course, they could never apply for any work permission. Again, because of the short time of the program, students are actually ineligible to work on the MIT campus or apply for any work permission off campus, even in the F. You need to complete 2 full academic semesters in the United States to be eligible to apply for work permission, which is granted by the government, and it's a long process. It takes at least 3 months for the authorization. And again, none of you would be eligible, is what I can see right now. The J1 visa is more restrictive. First of all, in order to apply for the DS 2019 form, that is the document you need to apply for the visa from the embassy, the US Embassy or a consulate, the funding must come from a source that's not personal or family funds. The funding source could be your home government, the US government, or a private company, fellowship, or even funding from MIT, which I don't know, I don't believe that's available in this program. But 51% of the funding cannot be personal or, as I say, family funds. The good thing about it is the J2 visa holder, the dependents, the spouse, for example, could apply for work permission. Unfortunately, it's not very practical for your short program because it takes 3 months to get the work permission, and the program is only 5 months long in total. So, however, I just wanted to give you that information. So dependents are eligible to apply for work permission, and they can also study full-time. Again, like the J1 students in this program, due to it being very short, are not eligible to apply for on-campus work or off-campus work, again, because it's a short program. The J does have a potential restriction. A student could be subject based on any one of the following 3 categories: a home country skills list, home government funding, or US government funding. So if you have any questions on that, I'd be happy to take it. But for now, it is overall a more restricted visa.
Yep. And we actually do have one question that came in about volunteering. I know it's something that always comes up. They wanted to know if they can volunteer in any capacity at MIT. Or in general?
In general, well, volunteering actually, according to our PowerPoint on work permission, the director of the MIT International Students Office, he actually limits volunteering to social and charity work, like a charitable organization. That if you think about it, there aren't too many people who are not paid for work. So they couldn't discriminate against an international student and simply not pay them because they were international. In fact, they would be in violation of US labor laws. So volunteering is not necessarily an option at all. You would probably have to give us a better idea of what was I providing. I mean, if everyone in the project were volunteering, it might be possible. But one has to be very cautious because violation of the working regulations for the student visas can have severe consequences, especially in today's climate, unfortunately. However, they've always been strict about that one particular rule. But we will advise you on anything. We're always here available in the international students should anything arise.
Sounds great.
Yeah. So I believe you already have quite a good schedule of expenses, but I was just going to go over it again. So you have the tuition for 5 months, MIT health insurance, which is obligatory from the state of Massachusetts and also for the F regulations. There's the student activity fee and living expenses for 5 months. They're all here on the website, $14,250. If you were to bring a dependent, a spouse or children, there would be additional cost, approximately $650 for the spouse and a little more for children. And you would have to purchase that from the MIT health plan. But the plan is good at MIT. I know, I've been here 35 years.
And Maria, on the question
Robert.
of dependents and spouses, do the students have to calculate these additional expenses themselves, or do they just enter?
They will just enter, and I think it'll automatically show up on our iMIT. This is the ISO portal that you'll go to upload your documents.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah, thanks. So funding sources, again, overall, it can be personal funds. However, the letter does need to be dated and legible, you know, with all due respects, I say that, but sometimes they come in quite faded. We do get audited by immigration periodically, and they review these documents. Anyway, you will in fact be taking the original to the US Embassy or consulate. So this is really, not only do we need the documents, but I'm preparing you for your actual visa application. And to be well prepared is important. So dated documents no older than 6 months. Have them as recent as possible. Have them, the money should be in current accounts, not in stocks and bonds and all of this. It needs to be readily available. We want liquid money, that the money is there. And the name of the bank account holder should be clear on the document, and it should be on bank letterhead, or if it's a company, it should be on company stationery. And the name on the account should be in English letters, in English characters. We see everything, unfortunately. Fixed assets and that are not allowed. Our current income or projected income wouldn't be permissible either. Again, it has to be readily available. Loan approvals, we would also accept that. They are classified as personal funds, so they couldn't be used for the J visa. If you remember, I said that 51% or more of the funding would have to be non-personal or family funds, and loans would not suffice at this point. Again, the loan has to be available, and you don't have to actually use the loan. You could, in fact, use personal funds, but we need to see that the offer of the loan is there, and so will the US consular officer. So again, everything should be on letterhead, dated, clear, with an exact amount, preferably. Ideally, I'd like to see it in US dollars. Or give us, have a currency converter. Not that we won't convert it, we will actually, but give us guidelines in exactly what we should convert. Come in now, funding documents. Again, the no older than 6 months. Yeah, so a shortfall is going to delay everything, even if it's a small shortfall, because I'll have to email you and say, you know, I'm afraid this is wrong. Can you get a new bank statement? So if you could have the exact amount, it would be very helpful. And entering over the required amount is not helpful, because we will only use the minimum on the I-20. Oh, I always forget the cameras here. We will only use the minimum amount, as I said, on the I-20. You can actually bring bigger bank statements to the US consular officer if you wish, and you can bring additional funding to support your case, but it's really not necessary. And certainly for us, it may delay things. Exact amount, please enter on the IMIT portal. Yes.
Yeah, and there were a few questions that came in.
Yes.
One was the 6-month requirement.
Yes.
Is that from the time that they submit their documents now, or is it from the time of the enrollment in January?
Oh, I see what you're saying. No, from now.
From now.
From now, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was another question. So on the topic of having a shortfall, or if currencies fluctuate from the time that they submit to the time that you actually calculate it, how does that, will you be able to see the funds, that more funds are available because of the currency fluctuation, to make sure that they have enough?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'll send a quick mail. If there's any, I have never actually come across that, because usually the account, the bank account, has sufficient funds, maybe a little bit over, and that would account for that. But we will work with you on that, so you should have no worries. Yeah.
But if they don't provide enough funding, it will delay the process.
Yes. Yeah. If it's, well, you know, if it's a couple of $100, I won't hold it up. But again, they'd want to get a larger bank statement for the U.S. Embassy or consulate.
Yeah.
But I won't hold it up for a couple of $100 or dollars. Yeah. Which really allows for that, I suppose. Yeah. Currency fluctuation.
Okay.
So how to apply? So, Robert, do you know a little bit more about the Kerberos and getting that? Would you like to speak to that?
Yes. So all of you have confirmed that you've received your MIT Kerberos account. You've probably received my message last week that as of today, your student account eligibility is in place. So with this student account eligibility, you'll be able to access the iMIT site at the end of next week. You'll also be able to access MIT's library websites for US citizens who are applying for loans through the US government. That application is now available. So really, now is the time that you are considered an eligible student in MIT's eyes and moving forward with these processes.
Right. So you should be able to access the MIT International Students Office portal, where as of September 15th, you will be able to upload for us the following documents. We'd like you to please upload your letter of admission and the funding documents. And if there's a dependent, we would need the marriage certificate. And that's all. And once you do that, we will issue the I-20, and it will be mailed to your mailing address on the ISO portal on iMIT. We ask you your home address, which may be one address, but we further ask you for a mailing address for the I-20 to reach you. Just a couple of points on we have a lot of problems with names, and immigration, there's exactness is really what counts. So you should enter your name exactly how it appears in your passport in the machine readable area. So if you have two last names, you need to enter them, because you'll end up with a document that doesn't match your passport, and you could be denied a visa and hold everything up. Moreover, even if it were to go through, when you come to MIT, you'd be denied an MIT ID card if everything is not perfectly matching. So enter all names. And again, for citizenship, you can only use one citizenship at a time. So decide on the passport you're going to use to enter the country. And once you enter that one, we do not need any other citizenship. You can hold various ones, but there's only one that counts. The US government doesn't like passport hopping, so to speak. They want you to be consistent and enter the country on the one citizenship, particularly for that program, for the program. And for your addresses, PO numbers will not work. Federal, not only for your home address, but also for the mailing address. Federal Express and DHL do not deliver to PO numbers. Please don't enter any foreign characters on iMIT. Because it just jumbles your address and we end up with nothing. Put it all, please, in English characters. And again, only enter the amount, exact amount that you need. The minimum amount, but only enter that as we ask you to enter your funding on the e-forms. These are the e-forms. And if you forget to hit the submit button and sign, we actually don't receive your application. So remember to do that, please.
Yeah. And there are a few questions about
Yes.
the I-20 and the delivery process.
Yes.
So one student, Nason, wanted to clarify that the home address and the mailing address can be different countries.
Most definitely, yes.
Yep.
Yes.
A few students wanted to just confirm that these are couriered over. So as you mentioned,
Yes.
DHL and FedEx will be the ones delivering
That's correct.
these documents.
That's right, Robert.
One student mentioned that in their country, the post works quite slow, to delay up to 2 months. Do they have a way to track, or do they receive a tracking number that you know of?
I can do that.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, no, they are notified.
Yeah.
We do. They will be notified by FedEx. As soon as it's sent out from our office,
Yeah.
they will be notified. But they won't go by regular post. They're
Yeah.
going to go by FedEx or DHL. And if there's a problem, they will call us or the recipient.
Yeah.
We will give your email to FedEx and DHL. So they all arrive within, certainly at the most, under 10 days, but usually for 5 days.
Yeah. Back to the question on funding, there were just two follow-up questions. One was, if a student has health insurance through their company and their housing is covered by their company as well, do they still have to show the same documentation for funding to meet the program, or can they deduct certain amounts?
So if we have a letter saying that the company, if they receive housing from the company, so is the support letter going to say we're going to fund the student in tuition, health insurance, and housing?
Mm-hmm.
If the company is going to write that is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
If the company says we're going to fund the student in tuition and the student has health insurance from the home country, MIT medical department needs to assess that insurance plan, because it may not meet the state obligation. Many international student health plans do not meet the standard required here at MIT and the state.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to say yes, that we'll accept that plan, because that's a medical question.
Yeah.
And the third one, housing, if they will provide housing, well, we will put the amount, we have a very minimum amount for living expenses. So if the company says that they're going to provide housing, we will enter that as 14,250. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that clear?
Yes. Yeah. So I think it would depend on the situation, but in terms of deducting amounts, I don't think we would do that. It would just be the letter from your company would have to specify that they're covering these portions.
That's right. And again, the health insurance, they need to be cautious. They may still get billed by MIT because it may not meet the standard. Yeah.
One more question that applies to all of our students, actually. They provided a $2,500 deposit in order to enroll in our program.
Yes.
What would just and the email from me confirming that we've received the deposit be sufficient to show evidence for that $2,500 amount? Or should I issue them a new letter saying that they have this amount already given to us?
Well, again, I could certainly accept it, from you, Robert, but it's the U.S. consular officer, so they may need to have probably a letter, because if their funding falls short of the I-20, and they talk about this 2,500, the U.S. consular officer may say, well, where's the evidence of that? So from my perspective, I will take whatever from Robert an email, but you might want to issue them a letter if it's required, if they need to show that additional funding.
So that I'll work with you if your funding is close to that amount. You did receive a small receipt from our system when you submitted the deposit, but I don't think it specifically mentions that it's for MIT tuition. So I can definitely work with everybody on that. Let me see, there was one more. I think we'll get to this question on the next slide.
Okay.
Yep. So we'll move forward.
Yes, thank you, Rob. So our portal looks something like this. So you will go for it to admissions, F1 application, or J1 application for new student. So it looks somewhat like this. Okay, we'll move. Thank you. Right, so if there are any students currently in the US on a student, you could, on an F1, you can do what is known as an immigration transfer. That's providing you're registered for this full fall semester from September to December. You could actually transfer into MIT using the same SCMb ID number. Again, it's not an academic transfer, it's an immigration transfer. And when you go on the IMIT portal, it will ask you, are you currently in the United States on, and if so, what visa? If it's F1, you could be eligible for, as I say, for an immigration transfer. And we have your school complete the transfer form and you get a release date, maybe sometime in late December. It's easy to follow the instructions on the IMIT portal. And again, we wouldn't issue your I-20 until after the release date in December. So you can review that if that is your situation.
Yeah, and we had one more question here about the SCMb ID and scheduling their interview with the consulate.
Yeah.
Do they need to have a hard copy in order to schedule that, or would they be able to see the information needed in advance?
We now actually we generate an email as soon as we issue the document, and the SCMb ID number is actually on the email with the MIT school code, immigration school code for MIT. What you could in fact do is pay the SCMb fee online because you have the SCMb ID number. But of course, you can start the process with just the number, but you would need the original document to apply for the actual visa at that time. But they could start the process.
Okay, the moment it's ready.
Yes, and we send them the SCMb ID.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Let's see, there were a few questions here. How long does it take after they've submitted in order to receive the SCMb ID and the documents?
Right. So, Robert, what's our next slide? Because I think that how long does it take? Exactly. We get asked this quite a lot. So it depends on after September. Once you do it after September 15th, please don't do it beforehand because it is not set up for we'll have to cancel it and then redo it. So please wait till September 15th. But after that, it depends on you. Timing really depends on you. If it's accurate and the bank statements are correct with the correct name and date and everything, I hope to get it out. What do we say, for 14 working days?
Yeah.
Yeah, even a little sooner. There are, how many students are there, Robert?
International, I think just under 30.
Yeah. That's not a huge number. So I'd say within 2 weeks we will have them up and out to you. Yeah. But if there's something wrong with your uploads, then that will cause a delay, really. It's quite simple for us to do it once they're accurate. By the way, if you were an immigration transfer, I said if you're currently in the US this semester, not the spring, and we're talking about the fall, right up until December, you could transfer in. And again, you really do not need to do very much until late December. You can upload all the documents, but you're limited until that transfer form is completed. Now, a couple of things. So they can go online and pay the SCMb fee. Very important, print the SCMb fee receipt. It's very important. And I did actually, for the Canadian students, they also actually have to pay the SCMb fee. Go online and don't forget to print it. I had a Canadian student just a couple of weeks ago. For some reason, he got by without paying the SCMb fee, got into the country, and then his registration was rejected, which could end termination of his SCMb record. However, he went in and paid it, which he could do afterwards. But all students pay the SCMb fee. I think it's, forgotten how much it is, $180 or $200 or so, something like that. We do not recommend that you buy your flight before you actually get the visa, because there could be delays. There's something called administrative processing. You know, if they have to do extra checks on your record, it could be delayed somewhat. If it's after the start date, we defer to Robert whether the program allows late arrivals, even 1 or 2 days. They need approval. MIT is pretty exact. But I think you'll assess each case, would you?
Yeah, we've definitely made accommodations.
Yeah.
Because that exact scenario did happen last year with administrative processing. So
Yeah.
yeah, we're flexible to make sure that you catch up as long as you arrive in a meaningful time, a reasonable time frame.
Yes. I was going to say, so you don't want to buy your ticket and then a non-refundable one, for example, and then get delayed and not be able to use it. You don't want to be out the money. So we really do recommend that you wait and see how long the visa process is taking. It's very important not to enter as a tourist. And there was one other thing I was going to say. Oh yes, applying for the visa in the home country or the country you're living. You have to show a residence there if it's a second country. And applying as a third country national is out of the question. You could be denied a visa. If you want to enter the United States to look for housing, or although they probably have housing here,
a lot of students will be applying for on-campus housing.
Yes.
In October.
Yes, but if they want to come in and see MIT beforehand, you should enter on a tourist visa and return home. You should not enter on the student visa, or you can only enter within 30 days of the start date, and that would be December 9th or 8th or 9th.
There was one question about paying the SCMb fee.
Yes.
Can they do this, or should they do this after receiving the certificate of eligibility?
Well, ideally, yes, but I think they can go ahead and do it.
Okay.
And start booking the appointment, because they have the information to make the appointment. And once you're sure, well, we will have issued the document by then, so it's only a question of sending it. It should take 4 or 5 days to get the document to you. Yeah.
Let's see. There was one question about a student we had mentioned, Peter. We will most likely speak with you separately, but transferring from a J1 visiting scholar to another form of visa, either an F or a J.
Right. Unfortunately, the J, again, it's a very restrictive visa, and you can only transfer scholar to scholar, student to student. Scholar to student cannot be done. You would have to request a new DS 2019 student for a student status from MIT, return home and apply for a new J1 student visa. They're not transferable between categories.
There was one question that I can answer. If you received financial support from the SCM program as part of your admission letter, you can use that towards the funding amount.
Most definitely.
Yeah. And you'll just upload that along with the admission letter. So it sort of serves two purposes.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And one other question is, will we be able to send the PowerPoint out afterwards?
I don't see why. Yes,
Yep.
of course.
Okay.
You can do what you want with it, Robert. Do
Yep.
I have any more pages, or am I finished?
Let's see.
Okay, so again, students who are here in another visa category, like an H1, L1, L1A, or B, or any other visa, changing status, I don't know about that. I mean, technically you could apply for change of status, but it's currently taking 11 months, and it really does not make sense. The program is 5 months long, so changing status to F, which is taking it 11 or 12 months, is probably does not make sense. It's better to travel home. However, we do allow students in HL and to register as full-time students, providing we get copies of their most recent I-94, the visa or the change of status, and a copy of the passport, plus a letter from your employer stating that you will continue to maintain that visa status, either H or L, while pursuing the degree at MIT. Once we receive those, we will clear you for registration at MIT.
Yep. And someone asked, do you have to apply for the visa in person? I think this was clear. Yes.
I think so, yes. Again, every country is different. You know, for a while in London, it was a mail-in process. So I really don't know about all the different countries, so I really cannot say, but I think so. The original one, you have to go in person. Yes.
Yeah, because if one student mentioned that he won't be returning to his home country until December, but I think you mentioned you can apply in whatever country you're currently in residence at.
That's correct. If you have evidence that you've been residing there, and they will look for something like a local police report, so they'll have some documentation on you in that other country. You could, in fact, apply for a visa in that country, and you can inquire and see if that's okay. I would imagine it is if you have a temporary residence there.
Yep. So I think that was all for the questions for now. Is there one more slide? No.
No.
Yeah, so I think I tried to keep up with all of the questions coming through.
Good job, Robert.
If there are any more questions, of course, Maria and I will always be helpful. Let me share the screen. Yep, so if there are any more questions, Maria and I will always be happy to help via email. I'll send out this PowerPoint presentation later today, and it will stay posted in our learning module website. Maria Brennan's email address is down there. Let me just see if there were any other questions. One question that came up: when does the MIT health insurance cover you? So we actually break it into two parts. The spring health insurance begins February 1st and covers you all the way through the summer, actually, until August 31st. As part of the program, since you are starting in January, we will also add a January health insurance to your account. So you'll have insurance as of January 1st. Maybe, Maria, in your experience, do students buy health insurance if they arrive 30 days prior?
No, I'm really glad you brought that up, actually. It's something I should add to my presentation. Immigration wants you to have some sort of health insurance upon arrival. So you should get travel insurance until your MIT health insurance kicks in. You can arrive within 30 days of the start date. So you can come anytime after December 8th. Is that what we said?
Yes.
Right, December 8th. So you can come for orientation and to hang out, but you will not have MIT health insurance in December. So please bring some travel insurance for your health. You would be surprised what happens to students in that first 30 days.
Yeah.
They fall or trip or break an elbow or a hand. Yeah. So do have it's an obligation anyway from an immigration perspective.
Yeah. So yeah, your MIT health insurance will start January 7th then. Yep. Let's see. So if you want to try to waive the health insurance requirement or the required insurance that MIT provides, there is an online form that will be due, I believe, by January. It's pretty MIT and the US requirements are pretty extensive as to what international health plans qualify for our requirements. So I'll send that out as well, so you can take a look at the waiver application. It's decided completely by MIT Medical if they will accept your health insurance for the waiver, and if so, they will refund you the health plan cost. But I think in our experience, they are pretty tough. So
Yeah.
you should still plan on paying for the MIT health insurance. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of international health insurance programs don't cover things like mental health, and that is a requirement for the state of Massachusetts.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we went through all the questions I could see here.
Good.
If there are any more, like I said, feel free to email us. And thanks for joining. And thank you, Maria, for taking the time to meet with us.
I look forward to meeting you all in January.
Yep. So everybody have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.